How one shot changed everything. It was a sunny morning on June 28, 1914, in a city most Europeans barely noticed. Sarajevo, a young man named Gavrilo Princip, just 19 years old, waited nervously along the street. He wasn't thinking about history or fame. He just carried a gun and a single, deadly plan. Moments later, a car drove past. Inside was Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria, heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and his wife Sophie. Shots rang out. 2 bullets, 2 lives ended instantly. And with them, the world began to unravel. Now, most people at the time didn't grasp what had just happened. Europe was a powder keg. Nationalism, complex alliances, and decades of tension had built up like stacked dynamite. But historians will tell you something chilling. One assassination wasn't supposed to start a global war. It shouldn't have happened. The Archduke's death simply gave governments the excuse they were secretly looking for. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia. Russia backed Serbia. Germany then backed Austria-Hungary. France and Britain were pulled in because of their own alliances. And just like that, a local conflict dominoed into what we now call World War I. Here's the first shocking twist. Most of the leaders didn't actually want a full-scale war. They argued, they hesitated, they delayed orders. But the machinery of alliances, national pride, and sheer fear was already in motion and had become unstoppable. By the end of July 1914, Europe was marching toward death. Millions of men were conscripted, families were torn apart, and landscapes that had stood for centuries were about to be obliterated, all because of one young man's act and the fragile web of promises and fear that ruled a continent. But it gets even darker. The war that started as simple retaliation spiraled out of control. Military tactics were outdated, while weapons were brutally industrialized. The battlefield became a nightmare of mud, poison gas, and machine guns. By the time it was over, more than 16 million people were dead, another 20 million were wounded, and it all traced back to that single day in Sarajevo. And here's the detail that most people miss. The assassination almost didn't happen. Princip had originally missed his chance to shoot. It was only because the Archduke's car took an unplanned wrong turn that it came to a stop directly in front of him. History wasn't made by a mastermind that day. It was shaped by a teenager. A wrong turn and an empire ready to explode. The final haunting truth is that World War I didn't solve anything. It destroyed empires, redrew the map of the world, and directly laid the groundwork for World War II. All because 2 bullets were fired.